Hello everybody, welcome to week 4 of NFL Power Rankings. Today we're going to dive into all 32 teams after another interesting week of football. Let's dive right into number 32 where we have a new team at the bottom spot in the league, the Chicago Bears. Things are just so dysfunctional right now. You get absolutely blown out by the Chiefs. Your defensive coordinator resigns. The offense looks like a complete mess. This team is just in absolute disarray right now. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they do ultimately end up firing the current coaching staff and moving on from Justin Fields at the end of the season. Really doesn't look like a strong group at all. And right now, it's just a lot of problems in Chicago, and that's going to allow them to get that number 32 spot. Then we have the number 31 team, the team they're playing this week in the Denver Broncos, gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins last week. That alone is just a disaster right there. The offense is looking all right with Sean Payton at the helm, but the defense is just a complete and utter mess. And until they get that cleaned up, this team is not going anywhere, and that means that they're going to be in that number 31 spot for now. Then at number 30, we have the Carolina Panthers. This team played without Bryce Young last week and really struggled to get a lot going offensively. Andy Dalton is a fine backup quarterback, but if he's your starter, you're in a pretty rough spot. This team just lacks playmakers. The defense is all right, but nothing special. Certainly been a bit of a disappointing year for the Panthers. They're going to slide into that number 30 spot. Then at number 29, the Arizona Cardinals picking up a huge win, their first win of the season over the Dallas Cowboys. This team is just kind of a mismatch of random players, but really Jonathan Gannon deserves a lot of credit. He's held this group together really well. They're playing very hard for him. And even with Josh Dobbs at quarterback, this team is finding ways to win and against really good teams like the Dallas Cowboys. So certainly credit to the Cardinals for a win this week. Really, really solid week for them. Then the Titans at 28, moving down 4 spots, just get absolutely steamrolled by the Browns. This offense is just an absolute disaster right now. They can't get anything going through the passing game. Ryan Tannehill looks like a shell of his already pretty mediocre self, and this running game is really not getting going too well either. The defense is all right, but when you're out on the field for the entire game, really not going to be effective. Have them dropping 4 spots to number 28 for the Titans. They're still very well coached, still think they can find a way out of this, but it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Then at 27, the Raiders. This team struggled on Sunday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The offense is all right. Josh McDaniels has a couple of baffling play calls towards the end. The decision to go for a field goal, it's just made absolutely no sense. Devontae Adams is still an absolute monster, though. Jimmy Garoppolo, when healthy, is going to be effective within this offense. The defense is just a big limiting factor. That's why they are in number 27. Then at 26, a team that really deserves a lot of credit for their play over the past few weeks, finally getting that first win, the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud has looked like the best rookie quarterback so far up to this point. Still certainly very early, but great signs for what he has been able to produce so far. He also has looked really effective within the structure of the offense, being anticipatory with his reads and his passes. The defense hasn't looked half bad either, and a big win over the Jaguars this week. That is huge for the division, huge when it comes to really rebuilding this team. D'Amico Ryans, once again, I do think is one of the better young coaches in the league. So a big step for the Texans. Going to move them up 4 spots as they have played pretty well over the past few weeks. Then we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did lose. They sit at 2-1. They got kind of blown out by the Eagles. I just think this team does have some big holes that they need to overcome. The defense is still really solid. You obviously have some great playmakers in Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I think Kate Otten's coming along nicely as well. It's just a big limiting factor on the quarterback play as well as the coaching. I think Bowles is just a big question mark at head coach as well. Obviously, you were going to be out-talented when it came to facing off against the Eagles this week. Not super concerned with their performance. It's really more about what I expected to see from them already. Then we have the Colts at 24, a big win over the Ravens. Perhaps got away with the defensive pass interference at the end of the game, but certainly not the only reason they won. Gardner Minshew in this offense was effective. The defense, especially the front seven, has been really good so far. They're going to move up 3 spots after a big win. Getting Anthony Richardson back could be really huge for opening up this offense, making this a true competitive team in a pretty weak AFC South. Then the Commanders at 23, moving down one spot. They just got blown out by the Bills. Sam Howell really had his first wow, that was bad moment in the NFL. Had 4 interceptions, was sacked so many times. This Bills defense essentially just ate them alive offensively. Defense really wasn't playing up to par as well, so really, really poor week for the Commanders. Obviously, the Bills are a great team, but not great. You still sit at 2-1 after those wins in weeks 1 and 2, but I do think that there are some concerns about their ability to really compete with some of the top teams in the NFL. Then the Giants at 22. This team has been very disappointing so far. You squeak out a win against the Cardinals last week after digging yourself into a massive deficit, and then have gotten absolutely blown out the past 2 other games as well, in week 1 against the Cowboys and this week against the 49ers. Really, just when the script of the offense is not going effectively, whether they get down quickly or they get behind the chains, this offense just has serious problems generating explosive plays and being really effective at moving the ball on a consistent basis. The defense hasn't been as good as you had hoped as well. So this Giants team has certainly disappointed. They are dropping 2 spots, and they really need to kind of figure their act out now because the NFC East is really, really tough. At 21, the Rams, they did lose. I have them moving up 2 spots. They played the Bengals really tough. This defense is really solid, and the offense, Matthew Stafford, is continuing to play really well. They have some lack of options, some lack of weapons. The offensive line is a big problem. Trey Hendrickson absolutely dominated Zachary Thomas at left tackle, but this team has some gaping holes. It's a very young team, but they still have star talent, and they have played really well up to this point. They do deserve to move up a few spots at number 21. At number 20, the Jets, things really just kind of seem to be falling apart. They're dropping down 2 spots. Defense is still really talented. They're still really good, but this offense is just completely and utterly ineffective at this point. Zach Wilson is just not an NFL caliber quarterback. He's been terrible so far. And really, this Jets team is just completely hampered and limited by Zach Wilson and what he is at this point. If they continue to get really bad quarterback play, this team just doesn't have a shot in a really talented AFC. Regardless of how good this roster is, they are just so severely handicapped at this point by the quarterback position, and they need to figure out an answer there. Otherwise, this season could turn out really poorly for them. At 19, we have the Vikings. They sit at 0-3. This is a talented team. Every game that they've lost has been 1-score games, but they just cannot pull it out. They had a chance against the Chargers this week to certainly pull it off, get the win, and couldn't do it. Kirk Cousins throws an interception at the end after it gets tipped up. This team just has not been able to get that final push over. Obviously, you have great weapons in Hawkinson and Addison, and of course, Justin Jefferson. The defense is a problem. The offensive line has been really banged up and been an issue as well. So they have a lot of flaws on this team right now. 0-3 is really tough to come back from. They are talented enough to do so. The NFC is weak enough to do so, but they absolutely need to get things in gear now in order to really kind of be able to recover from this dreadful start. At number 18, the Saints, they actually do move up 1 spot just because the other team's dropping below them. They choke a 17-0 lead against the Packers. Obviously, Derek Carr getting hurt does not help this. May miss a couple of weeks. That would be a huge loss for them. As critical as I sometimes have been of Derek Carr, he's a big improvement over what the inconsistencies that you get with Jameis Winston. So this Saints offense is already kind of limited, and I do think that Jameis Winston is going to limit it even more. The defense is really effective, though, and I do think that they will keep this team in games regardless, just because of how talented they have been and how good they've been to start this season. At 17, the Patriots moving up 4 spots. A tough, hard-fought win over the Jets. Bill Belichick and the Patriots are just effective, especially against the Jets. Mac Jones and this offense are trying to continue to figure things out. Ultimately, you have the elite coaching and the elite defense to lean back on, and that's really kind of what they have done as this offense figures things out. I do think they can get there. I do think this team has the potential to make a run and be a true playoff competitor down the stretch because of a lot of those real big strengths that we mentioned, but they do have to get the offense in gear. It was a bit too close against a Jets team that is just decimated at the offensive spot due to the quarterback position. So they really need to kind of figure out that offense and be able to get more explosive plays. At 16, the Steelers, a good solid win over the Raiders. Not the most convincing win. I do think the defense is really solid. They've been able to get after the quarterback, and obviously they just have so many playmakers on that back end as well. Offensively, it's still very much a work in progress. Kenny Pickett doesn't look super comfortable. Pickens has been getting involved a bit more. The offense is starting to figure things out. Matt Canada, though, does hamper what this team can do, and a running game they really have not been able to establish as well. Jaylen Warren is better than Najee Harris, in my opinion. He needs to get more carries in the running game, even in addition to a lot of the catches he gets as well. This team just looks a lot more explosive with him out there. I'll be curious to see if they do decide to switch to him a bit more. At 15, the Falcons kind of get blown out by the Lions. Really, with the Falcons, it is a offense where if the run game is not working, if the screens and the quick reads are not really being effective like they weren't against this Lions team, they are going to really struggle to move the ball. They can't press downfield a ton. I do think that Ritter has been a bit questionable so far this year. They have been able to get away with it with just the really effective running game, but I do think that there are moments where this team is just a bit limited by quarterback play and what they can do on offense when it comes to a schematic standpoint, just based on their personnel. They have a solid defense, especially in the back ends, but they got to get more pressure after the quarterback. They were just kind of dominated at the line of scrimmage by the Lions in both phases, and so they are going to drop one spot, though. I do think they have been a pretty good team. Then we have the Packers at 14. Jordan Love, I do think, has played well up to this point. That's huge for him. Obviously, he hasn't had Christian Watson. He hasn't had Aaron Jones the past 2 weeks as well. So getting those guys back healthy, hopefully relatively soon, is going to be big for this offense. And the defense has been really solid as well. Just so much talent on that back end. It's not the best coached defense by any stretch of the imagination with Joe Barry as the defensive coordinator, but this team has proven that they have the talent. They just kind of got to put things together on a consistent basis for 4 quarters. When they do that, they are really dangerous. They just need to really do that a lot more consistently. That's been their main issue so far this year. At 13, the Chargers. This team just squeaks by with a win, avoided going 0-3. I still think Brandon Staley is just a terrible head coach, and he should be fired really as soon as possible to help expand the ceiling of this team. They are just simply too talented to be where they are this season. I do think that getting this win was huge. Justin Herbert had a big game along with Keenan Allen. Mike Williams does go down. Hopefully, he is able to come back at some point this year. We'll have to see, though not likely. And then we do have the Jaguars at number 12. This team has been a bit disappointing so far. The offense, we really expected to kind of keep up where they were last year. The defense expected to take a bit of a step as well. And you get blown out by the Texans after losing to the Chiefs last week. Obviously, tough games. Divisional opponent this week. Best team, defending Super Bowl champion last week. But this team really hasn't been able to be competitive and put things together on a back-to-back basis now. They're going to drop 4 spots. They need to get the offense going with Trevor Lawrence, needs to take care of the ball. And defensively, giving up as many points as they did to the Houston Texans is not a great look by any means. They really need to, as much as they have invested in this defense, it really should be better with Tyson Campbell and a lot of the edge rushers that they have as well. Should be a much better unit, and they need to go out and prove it because this week they did not look super effective. At number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals moving up 1 spot, get that elusive first win of the season. Joe Burrow is definitely not 100% at this point. He looks like a shell of himself, and the offense will be very limited until he is able to really get healthy and become himself again. It's hard to say when that might be. Obviously, the defense really carried them in this game, had a couple of turnovers. Trey Hendrickson was just going off on the side of that line as well. We're able to get all kinds of pressure on Matt Stafford and really make him uncomfortable. That may be how they have to win. They do have a bit of an easier stretch coming up. The Titans as well as the Cardinals. Those are winnable games where they can take advantage and win defensively. Burrow may not have to really be an elite level quarterback in order for them to win those games. Number 10, the Detroit Lions. Nice game all around. Defense really kind of stood up, did their job, dominated in the trenches. The offense was able to be effective as well well, run the ball, get Sam Laporta and some of these weapons going as well. So really good team win for the Lions, convincing win, and something that does have them ranked in my top 10 at this point. I just think you know what you're getting from the Lions. It's good, consistent, tough football. At number 9, the Ravens moving down 2 spots. The offense does look a bit disjointed. Lamar Jackson and this team is trying to figure out the new system. I think that Lamar at his best this season, like we saw in week 2 against the Bengals, has been really, really good. It's just kind of about finding that balance. Obviously, the wide receivers are getting a little bit banged up. Odell Beckham going out. Rashad Bateman kind of dealing with injuries as well. Mark Andrews in and out of the lineup. So Lamar has obviously dealt with a lot when it comes to injuries, and this Ravens team has as well. But you do kind of got to get into a bit more of a rhythm. It was a tough loss against a team that you really should be beating in Indianapolis. Obviously, that defensive pass interference at the end of the game was tough, but they had their chances, and they should have won this game. They're going to move down 2 spots. And then at 8, we have the Seahawks moving up 1. Big win over the Panthers. A very good offensive performance. Geno Smith and as well as Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, they were able to get the ground game going. This offense is really effective. Still think they have some question marks on defense, especially in the front 7, but when you score as many points as they did this week, it doesn't really matter. So that is going to put them in that number 8 spot. I have some concerns about them, but this high-powered offense makes them an incredibly fun team to watch. At number 7, the Browns. This defense is just reckless. They are so good and just create so many problems for opposing teams. They held the Titans to 3 points. And really, that is going to be what pushes them. Now with Nick Chubb out, I still think Watson is a shell of what he was in Houston. He had probably his best game as a Brown this week, but still, it wasn't elite quarterback play by any means. It was more just doing what the offense asked of him. They do need to rely on this defense, and I do think it can carry them as the offense is a little bit limited, but they certainly have the guys on defense to take on that load and really be a top team, a top contender in the AFC. At number 6, the Cowboys, definitely a disappointing loss to the Cardinals. Really unacceptable based on the talent level. They should have gone in and dominated the Cardinals, and they were not able to do so by any means. They lose the game. This offense is still not where it should be. The defense has been able to carry them previously. Things didn't work out this game, and the offense was asked to really kind of carry the team, and it didn't work out. Dak Prescott and these wide receivers need to be better. They really couldn't get the run game going, and I do think the play calling is not great. With the loss of Kellen Moore, obviously that was planned by Dallas after they fired him, but I think it does kind of limit some of the schematic and play calling offensive efficiency of this team. At number 5, the Bills, like we said, just dominated the Commanders this week. Like we've said before, Josh Allen, when he is on, is just impossible to defend with his legs, with his arm. This offense really didn't get ridiculously going until kind of later in the game. The defense really carried this team. They were able to get tons of pressure with just 4 guys, make Sam Howell make mistakes, and that was really the difference in this game. If they can get defensive performances like that on a consistent basis, this team is absolutely going to be in that top tier of teams. It's just going to be about Josh Allen taking care of the ball and being able to be efficient on offense, because they obviously have the explosive plays and a lot of those playmakers to really be able to be an elite level offense. At number 4, the Eagles. Once again, a really solid game. They win in the trenches. The defense is really, really tough to get anything going on. And the offense is efficient, though they weren't as good as they have been last year. They were able to get A.J. Brown involved a bit. Jalen Hurts, the run game, was able to get going as well. So this offense is starting to find their stride a bit. The defense is absolutely locked down. Wasn't the best opponent in the Buccaneers, but a good, solid win on Monday Night Football. Really big win for the Eagles to remain perfect, and certainly one of the best teams in the league. At number 3, the Chiefs, moving down 1 spot. Nothing they did. They absolutely dominated the Bears. Just complete fashion. Mahomes came out before the fourth quarter even started. The defense looked really good against a terrible Bears offense, but it is the defending Super Bowl champions versus the worst team in football at this point, in my opinion. So definitely a good win, but a win that they should have absolutely dominated, and they did. So good performance from the Chiefs. At number 2, we have the San Francisco 49ers, moving down 1 spot as well. Dominant win on Thursday Night Football against the Giants. Christian McCaffrey just continues to be the most dangerous running back in the NFL. He's just such a weapon for them, and this offense was efficient. The defense continues to be a great unit as well. This team is complete. When you get even good quarterback play from Brock Purdy. This team is borderline unstoppable. So they were just a fantastic team. They only moved down one spot because the Miami Dolphins at number 1 just blew the Denver Broncos out of the water. If you're undefeated, you score 70 points, you deserve to be in that number 1 spot. Defensively, they've been really solid. Offensively, Tua Tagovailoa has been a fantastic player in the MVP conversation. They've really got the running game going with Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert were just fantastic. All of this really borders on Tua's health, and we say that every single week, but it is just the biggest limiting factor of this team because when you look at them, they are great all across the board, getting a pass rush. The corners have held up well even without Jalen Ramsey there. The offense is just humming, obviously, after you score 70 points. The holes may be there on the roster, but they certainly haven't shown. That's why the Dolphins deserve this number 1 spot, and they are the best team in football going into week 4 for my power rankings. If you like content just like this, please hit that subscribe button down below. So close to 1,000 subscribers. Put out mock drafts, power rankings, score predictions, all of that good stuff. And if you want to see more, please hit that subscribe button. While you're down there, hit that like button as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.